As the education curator, I wear a lot of different hats. Our education department here at the Oregon Zoo is pretty large. We have close to 200,000 people who participate in an education program of some sort, anything from coming to one of our bird shows, to a school program, to one of our zoo camp programs. And then of course we have our interpretive graphics and panels that are all over the zoo, and the education department is involved in the content creation of that. And then we run a volunteer program of about 1,700 youth and adult volunteers that work with the public in a variety of ways. A lot of our programs are geared towards elementary age students, but everybody who comes to the zoo looks at an interpretive graphic that has gone through the education department or has an encounter with a volunteer that's part of our education department. So really, I'd say our demographic is all ages. People come to the zoo for lots of different motivations. Some of them are just here for a fun day with the family, and we try to provide that, but also enhance it. We want the family who's just out here for a fun day seeing the animals to learn a little something about the animals, to maybe connect with them in a new way or learn something about how they and their behavior impacts animals in wild habitat. So we have a variety of ways that we interact with them. It could be as simple as our interpretive graphics and the interactives around the exhibits. It could be a volunteer at an animal talker station that has a set of artifacts and they're encouraging visitors to come up and ask questions about the animals. It could be a talk that one of our keepers gives. We do lion talks and feedings at different exhibits throughout the day. And then of course we have a set of programs as well that if they want to learn more, they can sign up for a program and come back. At its core, everybody wants to just have this connection with this wild animal that's in front of them. I think people are just naturally fascinated by animals and they want to connect. So we provide a variety of ways to do that. You know, we try to give information without getting in the way of the connection between the person and the animal. But that being said, yeah, we do have adult programs and we have kid programs, and even in our interpretive graphics, we try to provide things that we think kids are more likely to interact with, mechanical interactives or games that they can do, while at the same time here's a nice panel with a lot of good information for the grown-ups to read while the kids are playing with the interactive. And I like to say that part of our job in interpretive graphics is making sure that mom and dad don't look like idiots in front of their kids. You know, if the kid asks them a question about the animal, you want that parent to immediately be able to look over, see the answer on a graphic, and be able to provide that to their kids so that, boy, they just feel like they're the smartest person in the room and their kid thinks their dad knows everything about animals. And you know, that's a big part of what our graphics are designed for. Back when I started, it was much more about conveying information. It was much more about, here's some cool facts about snakes or about lions that you can give to your visitors, and they'll go, wow, those animals are pretty cool. It has shifted in the last 20 years to be much more focused around attitude and behavior change. Our animals are in trouble, and we as zoos have really taken up the challenge of helping the public that visits us understand the problems that face wild animals and understand how our personal behaviors impact wild animals and wild habitats. If I was a student interested in going into this field for the first time, I'd really look into that, because attitude and behavior change takes a lot more work. There's ways to do it, but you have to look at people's value systems and where they come from and their motivations, and it's not as simple as just kind of putting a list of information out there for folks. Now that I've become a manager, I think I've become more and more aware of some holes in my background and training that as an educator you don't necessarily think would be important, but I would definitely say I would go back and study more about managing a budget, and I would definitely go back and learn a little bit more about marketing, both of which are actually really critical for running an education department at a big institution like the Oregon Zoo. The big challenge for us as we kind of head forward in the 21st century is really figuring out how to speak the language of the demographic of people who's just now going through their teens and 20s. We have, I think, done a nice job creating some interactive exhibits that tell people a lot about animals, but what we have not done is connected with the digital technology and social media that is so heavily used out there right now. We need to find a way to use those tools to connect people with more information and give them more information, again, without taking them away from the animals and taking them away from that direct interaction with the animals. The last thing I want is to create a great app or great mobile website that forces all of our visitors to walk around the zoo with their phone in front of their face. At its core, what we're trying to do is make a connection between you and that animal. And no technology is going to help you do that. We actually want to remove the barriers between you and that animal so you can make that connection. But technology can help you learn more about that animal. It can also help you share with your friends what you've learned about that animal and how you can help it. And it can also help you connect with a broader network of people that are all interested in doing things to help wildlife. Oh, there's so many kind of technological hurdles. It's actually not as much money as you'd think, although money obviously plays a part in it. But a lot of times the challenges just simply are things like we get poor cell phone reception at the Oregon Zoo. But beyond that, again, I think it's just the design of the interactive so that it's engaging and helpful, but without taking people away from the animal itself. And that is tricky, and I think there's still a lot of research to be done on how to do that well. I've experimented with it actually at a past zoo, and we found that visitors kind of separated into two categories. Either they kind of didn't use it or they used it too much. And so finding that sweet spot right down the middle where people will have an app that they want to use and will enhance their experience but not overuse it is pretty tricky. It's a fun field. It really is a fun field, and I think it's a field that's becoming increasingly important. Zoos used to just kind of have this role of being pseudo-educator entertainers, and now with the plight that a lot of animals are facing in our world, zoos are really standing right at the front edge of talking to people about how we live and how that impacts wild habitats all over the world. So I would just challenge people, if they're interested in getting out there and doing their part to kind of make a difference for wild animals and wild habitats, to consider zoo education as a career. I love being involved right at that moment, that aha moment where people really engage with learning, engage with a subject like an iguana or a lion or an elephant, and they just go, wow, this is an amazing creature and I want to learn more. And to me, that's the real power of informal institutions like zoos, is we make that connection, we hook people, and then hopefully we've got ways to then provide them with those information, help them ask the right questions and get the answers they want to take them that next step in learning.